Hi everyone, my name's Lily and I am the book reviewer behind Utopia State of Mind. Today I'm bringing you my monthly Librofm sale audiobooks. So, if you're new here, I am an avid Librofm user. I love Librofm. Librofm is an audiobook subscription service. It is independent, so it does not support Amazon. They are DRM free credits, so you own the audiobooks that you buy with credits and also that you buy outright. They support independent bookstores, so you can also pick an independent bookstore that you really love, that you can support particularly. And every additional book that you buy that it does not include a credit, basically, you get 30% off. So every month they do certain sales. They have like specific playlist sales and then sort of general sales. So every month I go through and I recommend books to you that are on sale that I would recommend that you pick up. And I inevitably add books to my cart, which I've already done, so in preparation for this video. I also wanted to mention as a disclaimer, all the links down below are going to be affiliate links. That's because I am an affiliate of Librofm, not only because I personally have been using Librofm for years now, but they are my favorite audiobook platform, period. I just love the interface so much. I love the independent bookstore support, and so I'm an affiliate. If you don't want to use the affiliate links, that is fine. Just go to Librofm's website and just search for these books. So let's just get into it. The YA Club one was super small this month, but there are two that I wanted to talk about. And the first one is Evergreen, which is a queer YA retelling of The Secret Garden. Honestly, I'm going to be honest with you, I have not read The Secret Garden, so... but I have done a few different panels with Devin. Devin is the author of Evergreen. I will link them in the description box. But basically, it is about the main character is a dryad, and in the main character's family, everyone who is a dryad is normally a female, but he is a male dryad, and he's the first ever. So, he specifically told, like, never to leave his house, basically, and then what happens when he does. And it's a really precious story about the things that we think we know about the world and challenging those, challenging the people that we love, and challenging our own expectations. Next we have Now Conjurers, which I listened to this one actually an audiobook, and I really, really loved it. I loved that the narrator is able to really bring in the fears and vulnerabilities of Nesbit. Nesbit is the main character, and Nesbit has a secret boyfriend, and his secret boyfriend ends up dying, and he's not able to grieve because nobody knows that they were dating. But then he and the surviving members of the North Coven decide to get answers about what happened to Bastion. And it's a really precious, heartwarming story about like grief in secret and not being able to come out. And also about curses, and it has found family. There's a little bit of a horror-esque vibe to it, and I would highly recommend it. Now we're going to go into the Kiss Club, which had a few more than before, but actually no, it had one book, and it's The Other Side of Infinity. The majority of the books actually in today's video come from just the normal sale page, but The Other Side of Infinity was a really, really good book about telling the future. I love books about telling the future, premonitions. I would never. I can't handle that. But I love books that not only look at telling the future, but what it would be like to know the future and how that would change your future. And that is a big theme in The Other Side of Infinity. It takes place as December is the main character. There's a lifeguard who's at her pool. Nick, is trying to save a drowning man, and using her foreknowledge, she saves the drowning man instead. But because of that, there's like a whole different chain of reactions that come about. She is now Nick's life is in risk. They're also going to fall in love. So she knows that, like, if they fall in love, his life will be at risk and all of these different things. And it's kind of like, how can you stop what you think is going to happen? How do you sort of live knowing what you think might happen or knowing what will happen? And the burden of being able to tell the future. Now I'm going to talk about sale audiobooks. There were a ton of sale audiobooks that I wanted to mention. The first book that I want to mention is actually a book on my TBR. It's by Cat Sebastian, We Could Be So Good. Cat Sebastian is an author that I've really, really loved. I can't remember off the top of my head the Cat Sebastian story that I really like. I think it's The Queer Principles of Kit Webb. Don't quote me on that. I think it is. Yes, The Queer Principles of Kit Webb and The Perfect Crimes of Marion Hayes. And actually 2 books are on sale from Cat Sebastian, and that is We Could Be So Good and You Should Be So Lucky. We Could Be So Good is a story about, it's a historical fiction set in the 1950s, and it is about 2 people who work in a newspaper. So, for example, our main character, he works at one of the city's biggest newspapers, but since it is historical fiction, it talks about the dangers and the prejudices about being queer in the 1950s, and that is certainly the case for Nick. And so Nick tries to keep everybody at arm's length because he knows that any relationships he have would be potential sources of danger, not only for him, but for anyone involved. So it's basically about that, and he meets another character who is a newspaper, that character is part of a newspaper tycoon family, and his father wants him to take over the newspaper tycoon business, and so Nick and Andy kind of meet and sparks fly. And so I have not actually read We Could Be So Good, but I have read You Should Be So Lucky, which honestly, these titles are so similar, but anyway, You Should Be So Lucky got me caring about sports in a way that I never have and probably never will again. I don't really love sports. Baseball is also not my thing, but You Should Be So Lucky got me asking my family members baseball questions, which is an achievement in of itself. It's another historical fiction queer romance. Basically, one of the main characters, Eddie is in a slump. I think that's what they call it. He's in a slump, and he's struggling to perform well on the baseball team. And the other character, Mark, is not a sports reporter, but ends up getting assigned to be a sports reporter, mostly because he's not having a great career either, just like Eddie. And so they're both paired together, and Mark is going to write kind of like a piece about Eddie, and then ... As I said, it got me caring about baseball in a way that, as I said, I have never cared about it and probably will never care about it again. The next one is The Name Bearer, which is on my TBR. If you recognize The Name Bearer, it's because it's by Natalia Hernandez. I did a panel with Natalia for Assyria and the Amaru, which I'll leave the links down below. But The Name Bearer is another series that Natalia writes, and I cannot wait. Actually, this is in my cart already. Like this is in my library already. I already bought it, but basically I haven't read it. And so the plot of The Name Bearer is that the main character, who is the name bearer, their purpose is to receive and deliver the names of the future monarchy from the flowers of prophecy. So we've got like the name of the book, the name of the series, all in that one sentence. But then a child is finally born to the monarchy, and the name bearer is sent to the flowers to get the name. But the flowers refuse to name him, which is obviously a problem. Instead, they deliver a prophecy. Another child was going to be born, is going to be much more worthy of the naming prophecy, or like the naming process, I guess. And so the name bearer is supposed to go find this other kid. I'm really excited for this one. I cannot wait to read it, and it's on sale, and I already own it, so, do with that what you will. The next one is Good Fortune, and it is a reimagining of Pride and Prejudice set in a contemporary Chinatown. I have been wanting to do diverse Pride and Prejudice recommendation videos for a while, and so Good Fortune, I think, is why it's been on my radar recently. And basically, it's like Pride and Prejudice set in Chinatown. Elizabeth Chen is the main character, and her mother is a real estate agent or a realtor, and so her mother sells a community center down the block, but the owners, or like the people who have now bought the community center, as I quote here from the Librofm page, don't look like typical New York City buyers. And so we have Brendan Lee and Darcy Wong. So, we see Elizabeth and Darcy already. They have bought the community center, and they want to clean up the neighborhood and give it a makeover. So that is the plot of Good Fortune, and I'm excited for that one. I'll have to figure out if I actually own this one or if I'm going to pick it up now in the sale. The next one is Don't Fear the Reaper. You might have seen that I really enjoyed Don't Fear the Reaper. That is actually my favorite of the entire Angel Lake trilogy, I think is what it's called. Is it called Angel Lake Trilogy? I'm not really sure. Oh no, Indian Lake Trilogy. Anyway, then because the next one is like the Angel of Indian Lake. So yeah, Indian Lake Trilogy. This is the one that like finally made it click to make me love the series, and it is because of the audiobook narration. Not only do we have a huge list of audiobook narrators, which I love, but the audiobook narrators are really able to bring the story to life, to bring not only like what happened in the past and also what is happening now to life. I don't know how to explain Don't Fear the Reaper without really spoiling. My heart is a chainsaw. So what I will say is that it's a horror story which is about serial killers, and specifically Don't Fear the Reaper is about revenge serial killers. And it's about basically this town that has this history of trauma, this history of grief and death, and about how each successive generation, I guess, manifests that and figures that out while things are happening. Yes, that is all I'm going to say. The next one is Spoiler Alert, which is actually the first in the Spoiler Alert series by Olivia Dade. I really like this series. Basically, it's set in the world of fan fiction, and it's set specifically in around like a TV series, I'm pretty sure. Yes. And so in Spoiler Alert, we have the main character. He is a star of one of the biggest shows. I can't remember what it's called. I want to say it was like Olympus something. But anyway, he's part of this biggest show, and fan fiction readers call him Book Aeneas Would Never. And so he basically is really frustrated about the portrayal of his character and also how it's being perceived. So he decides he's going to write anonymous fan fiction stories about his character and another character, but obviously he cannot say that he's the one writing it because then he would be in trouble. And their other main character, she is a hardcore fan of the show, and so she posts her latest costume creation on Twitter, and she gets a lot of hate on it, a lot of fat phobia. And then Marcus, the character, the other main character and the star actor, asks her out to kind of put those critics, like basically to spite those critics, and then that is kind of how they decide to come together. It's like a publicity stunt, but then ... And so Spoiler Alert is the first book in the Spoiler Alert series, which is all kind of based roughly on characters from this kind of TV show. The next one is The Last Tale of the Flower Bride, which I loved so much. Roshani Chakshi's writing is so lush. It is evocative. It is like brutal. It is dangerous, deadly, blood-soaked. And The Last Tale of the Flower Bride is 100% all of those different things. It's kind of like a loose reimagining, sort of. It has really strong gothic inspirations. I'm thinking like Bluebird, Starling House. It's kind of like a fairy tale as well. So it's kind of steeped in all of these stories that are kind of like premonitions, and as well kind of ghost stories, and also stories that are warnings as well. That's kind of the tradition it's steeped in. But basically, there's a man who marries a beautiful woman named Indigo, and she is an heiress, and kind of like Bluebeard, kind of like that kind of thing. In exchange for her love, she makes him promise to never ask her about her past, never pry into it. But we all know, honestly, how that's going to go. And so they end up returning to her childhood home, the House of Dreams. And of course, the man is going to figure out that he just cannot not ask about her past. Within the crumbling manor, he also finds a person who is supposedly Indigo's childhood friend named Azur. And so then secrets start being revealed, and it's like unraveling, like a gothic, deadly unraveling that kind of makes you feel like you don't know what's going on, but also about love, about secrets, about obsession, about friendship. Like, it is just so good. I loved it so much. As I said, I've loved Roshani Chokchi's writing in everything I've read, honestly, and this is just a beautiful, gorgeous, gothic kind of adult story that I just honestly love so much. The next one is on my TBR and is The Ride of Her Life. I've really loved Jennifer Dugan's past books, like Hot Dog Girl, that's one of them, and Ride of Her Life is an adult romance. Oh, I also really liked Love at First Sight, and The Ride of Her Life is a enemies to lovers, grumpy sunshine queer rom-com. It is comped to Delilah Green Doesn't Care, and as the Librofm website says, it's a wedding-obsessed city girl who inherits a horse farm. We love some horse girlies. Who inherits a horse farm from her estranged late aunt and clashes with the cocky, unfairly hot farrier, Horse Girls, who thinks she's going to run the barn into the ground. So we definitely have the same kind of vibes as we're seeing in the Helena Greer book about the Christmas tree farm. I'll leave that cover as well over here, but I am so excited for this one. This was on my list of books that I really wanted to read, but I just wasn't able to get to it, and so I'm mentioning it now because it is on sale, and I'm like really tempted, honestly. So we'll see if I end up buying it. The next one is Lore of the Wilds, which is another TBR pick. I actually own this one in book form, but I haven't read. And our main character's name is Lore. She lives in a village, and it is kind of trapped in a fantastical fairy tale forest. But when the village is threatened, she decides to make a deal with a fae. So she has to go, and in the deal, she has to go and then catalog/organize this enchanted fae library. But it's because that no fae can enter, only, I guess, other creatures, and she's a human, so she can enter. But why are there no fae allowed, right? Like, they make that rule for a reason, and so that's going to be the world of Lore of the Wilds. I'm pretty sure it's also a series, I think I saw something from the author about either next book or the series in this one, the sequel. Anyway, I own the book, and I'm excited for that, obviously, but it's on sale. The next one is The Cat Who Saved Books. If you saw my cozy translated fiction book video, I was going to say book series, but book video, I will leave the link down below. I mentioned The Cat Who Saved Books, mostly because most of those books had cats on the covers or mentioned cats, and The Cat Who Saved Books came up in my kind of other things, you know, the things on Goodreads or on Storygraph where it's like readers like you may like, and then The Cat Who Saved Books came up. But basically, as I said in the other video, it is about a high school student who is about to close a secondhand bookstore which he inherited from his grandfather, except a talking cat appears. Whoa. And the talking cat wants the teenagers' help in saving books together. So I love that so much. I love talking cats. I love bookstores. Like, it just seems honestly on my vibe, and it is in my cart because for the price of $4.99, that is amazing. And also, I'm an active member, so you know, it's 30% off as well. The next one is How High We Go in the Dark, which I also listened to on audiobook and from Librofm. So, you know, just double pats on the back. How High We Go in the Dark was a book that I want to discuss more with other people. I made my book club read this, and my book club had very strong, different opinions about the book. I highly recommend listening to it in an audiobook, though, because it's a series of connected-ish world and connected-ish characters in a science fiction, and by that I mean it's kind of like a post-apocalyptic kind of setting. Basically, there's been a climate plague. So from that, you can kind of tell that it's obviously a plague, but it's also connected to the climate. That's all I'll say. And so these other voices, I feel like each chapter, it's kind of like vignettes. So each chapter is a different character, and the characters are all sort of interwoven within each other, and their stories are connected in fascinating ways. It's like a post-apocalyptic sci-fi sort of sad, sort of heart-wrenching look at death and memory and the climate and the future Love Actually style book. And there were some things that I really, really loved, and some things that I really want to kind of like unpack with more people who've discussed it. And as a lot of people said actually in the book club that I helped host, even the ones who like it wasn't their cup of tea were able to see some really interesting things that that How High We Go in the Dark does in terms of the way that it looks at death, it looks at memory, it looks at living. I think it's specifically, we were reading this basically right after the peak of the pandemic in my virtual book club, and it was just a little bit too close to home. I think that's another reason why, and for a variety of different reasons. Some of the characters some of the real life people in the book club had a hard time with some of the characters and some of the things that happened in the world because of that reason. But definitely something that I think it was really thought-provoking. And that is the end of the Librofm sale picks for October. I hope that you really enjoyed these. I have some books that I need to check out from Librofm immediately after finishing this video. And yeah, let me know down below what your current audiobook read is, just in case anyone wants to know. Mine is The Courting of Bristol Keats. I'm only 10% through, so I'm not going to talk about it very much, but that's what my current audiobook read is. And I'd love to know what your current audiobook read is as well, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.